Good evening. Welcome to Investigator News. This is World News and Corruption Files. And we will do world news and go over a little bit of it, and then we'll do the corruption files. And what is corruption files? HUD, the corruption of HUD and our state, and using funds not in the right direction. And we have seen HUD and using trying to help the poor and those in poverty, and misusing it, as we'll see tonight. So good evening to Linda and to Susan in our chat room. If you'd like to make a comment or a question, please come on in and we will welcome you. So to start off with, boy, we're real close to next month, and we're going to decide the fate of our country. You know, do you love America or do you hate America? The Democrat Party made it clear. Not, I just listen, and they just hate America. The Democrats, it is. And tell me how they really support it. I'm nobody special. I'm just a little old woman that does news on YouTube and Facebook. I'm not a special leader for the Republican Party. And that is the nature of the beast. You pick one or the other, either party. And if you basically go for that third independent party, really you're voting Democrat. That's in my view. And I hate to tell people really how to place their choice, but we need to go all the way Republican. And we'll deal with the wrong, corrupt Republicans later. We have got to stop what is going on in this country. Either you love America or you hate it. And it seems like the Democrats are against it. They have had plenty of opportunity to fix the woes of our country: inflation, poverty, homelessness, corruption, crimes, especially the crime. And we're in basically a recess of sorts with these parties, and I don't care how they try to spend it. 2 quarters of negative growth from the political Democrat Party. So is that what they call it? If they can't get their way, they're going to call a recess. And then they can deal with what they have to later. What is the problem with them just debating? What's the problem with them coming out and saying they support everything that they have signed into office? We also have inflation teetering on double digits, a massive deficit spending, borrowing and printing of money. And with inflation through the roof, Democrats decide to give it another $1 trillion boost. Because of what? Why? It's part of the wealthiest among us. Grad students having to pay for their loans, others not. And we pay for it. So what has this done? Let me tell you the sacred, your air conditioning system, or the prices that are going through the roof, the changing of the processes again. Fertilizer's expensive. That's why there is a 20 less planting this year than over the last few years. Reducing food supplies now. The lower supply, the demand goes up. The higher the cost, the higher uh, the the more we're seeing inflation and the more we're going to have to pay at the supermarket. Higher prices for animals to need to eat those kind of harvest foods like cattle, chicken, eggs are all going up. Beef is through the roof. All of these prices are going through the roof. Diesel fuel back up again. Why? Because we're not able to produce as much as we need. Even though we can, we're not allowed to. 18 wheelers are costing much more to move harvest products from the fields, from the packing plants to the grocery stores. And the cost of the appliances uh, through the roof. Automobiles, even worse. We're looking at a 10% increase. And now they're even saying the EV vehicles may have to go up due to all the problems that it's been having. And so, what has Biden done or not done? What have the Democrats? What have they done? They're running our economy. They're managing this country, and they are destroying it. So why do we have high energy prices? Many reason is that this Biden administration appointed the most radical people in America, come from professors to radical liberals, and those that just want to see America fail. The think tanks, nonprofit, even a lot from the Obama administration. Um, and it's more obvious that the EPA and Interior Department and other departments control our energy sources. So what are they doing? What are they doing about biofuel mandates? No one ever thought about that. No one's even asked to even question it. Investment in drilling development through its ESG policies. And we haven't even touched hardly into ESG here at the show. Now, that is environmental social engineering governmental policies pushed by hard left. Um, they are subsidizing massively electric vehicles. That is an effect of two of three big three auto producers. Other than GM, others are full speed ahead with the electric vehicles and no combustion vehicles in the future. And why? Why can't we have both? Why can't we weed off of this very slowly so we can make sure that they're run right? We don't have defects. Or it gives even the poorest in this country a chance to be able to afford their own electric vehicle. They are staffed with a view that fossil fuels are evil, and they're harassing people with investigations that don't agree with them. They canceled the pipeline, closed the pipeline, um, and reviving a social cost of carbon. They place uh, uh, policies against drilling on federal land. Um, and not only that, rejoining the Paris climate and canceling oil and gas. These drilling leases that should be handed out all across the globe to be able to help every one of us. But should we worry about those not in our country? It seems like we have been. We send them millions of dollars in aid almost to every country that wants it. They already let initiative, uh, punitive government investigations uh, only against those in the United States, not against oligarchs and dictators in other countries. Restricting drilling using ozone rules in Texas and New Mexico, imposing stricter methane and range of other policies. Biden is draining the strategic petroleum reserve like no president has. And it's put us in a dangerous national security position. Um, and OPEC now cutting millions of barrels a day because the Biden administration has failed to be a diplomat. He's failed as a president. What is going on here? If you look at the Democrats as a whole, fundamentally, Democrat policies aren't working. And this is this what they want? A poor America, a degrowth movement, maybe an cutting down our population? Are they chasing us out of our own countries to go to other countries so they can turn this into what? Povertyville? And a huge degrowth movement. They are anti-capitalism. They're pro-economic socialism. And their socialism is crashing before our eyes. They have to lie about it. They blame you. They blame big oil. They blame the man on the moon. But will they ever take the blame for what they have done? Never. They create a scenario like criticizing. This is what they do. The Marxist left and Democrat Party, a socialism party, that's what they do. That's what they've been taught. And who taught them? None other than Karl Marx. Why do Democrats in America have to hate? The U.S. murder rate is the highest in 25 years. The cities shattering records like Philadelphia. People can't even go out in the streets. The cities are getting depopulated. Where are they going? They are getting pushed out. They can't even afford to live in not even the inner cities, the cities, or even the suburbs. So where do the poor people go? We just seem to abuse them. And so, where did all this money go that was allotted not only by the feds, by us, but to the states, but then to the individual cities? How would they fix it when they broke all of it? They broke our economy and inflation and energy and our energy independence. They broke police enforcement. And they believe women have the right to choose and protect their bodies. But rape is way up there. Where are they with the women that are raped on the city streets? They ignore this, particularly in their inner cities, in their sanctuary cities. We're supposed to believe that they believe in protecting women's bodies. How come Democrats don't support anything that is just or moral? Everything I just described is a man made disaster. That's the Democrat Party, a man made disaster. It's continuing. Look at the immigration in the southern border. It's heartbreaking. In the U.S. migrant child camp, uh, it's rampant with disease, a lack of food, children being handed off. We find out to child molesters. They're handed by staff to strangers. They talk about children being separated from their parents when hundreds of them are being pulled apart every day on our border. And when the Biden administration is asked about this, they simply ignore it. Or like Biden maybe walks backwards and waves goodbye. Um, the criminals are coming in like we have never seen, from sex trafficking to fentanyl. Um, every form of corruption walks over our borders every day by the thousand. And then they want to gripe when we send them, uh, the illegal immigrants, into their own cities. And then it's wrong. Wrong to who? Is it wrong because they can't make money off the drug cartels? Or maybe it's becoming an enemy of China over fentanyl. So, as we could see, as we're getting closer to November, it's almost a must. And I hate to tell people how to make their choices, but there has to be a big overhaul of our country. And what else to do but to vote Republican? And I may get it for that V word just now. And boy, and we just got one of our strikes dropped today. Um, so this is what we're looking at as we move into the next few weeks. There has to be a big change. We are patriots. We love our country. We love Christian values and we have morals. And what has happened to the Democrat Party? Uh, all of us conservatives keep asking that question. What made them so hateful? What made them so mean? What made them unleash corruption all the way from state to state? And what has made all of us just simply ignore it? The Democrats hate America, and above all is the proof of their own people, the ones that line up every 4 years to make their choice. What kind of evil, perverted people are these? And they look at us, look harder at them. Their issues is not conservative Christians, and they're going to lead this world of what kind of leadership? Is it going to be a country of evil and less morals? Not one country across the globe would be subjected to this or have their own country this way. And not only that, pushing for nuclear. Are they stupid? Yesterday, or the last few days, Biden, in an address to the Democrat um, Senate campaign committee. He said the country under his leadership is close to Armageddon as since the Cuban Missile Crisis. Well, why did he put us there? He started talking about Putin threatening to use nuclear weapons. And he said Putin wasn't joking. No joke. And when he talks about the use of the attack and tactical nuclear weapons or biological and chemical weapons, we have not faced this prospect of Armageddon. This is not like what me and William described to you on Wednesday of a Cuban Missile Crisis. This is much closer. And we keep poking at Putin and saying, do it, do it. Now, Russia has been backed into a corner. Now, you may not think so, but when you start going and you have NATO forces, you have the United States, UK, and it's kind of what we have done to China, where we surround pretty much everywhere in the Pacific Ocean with our own boats. So, how would they act if they felt like they were backed into a corner like a lion with no escape? The White House says Biden administration is communicated directly with Russian officials about what kind of response of using a nuclear weapons would bring. Now think on that. They have been communicating with Russian officials, and we still have to openly threaten Russia. And in the meantime, we hear now even generals and those from the Pentagon stepping forward saying that, wait, now Russia is really only said they're going to defend themselves. And if pushed, that the wind blows both ways. And officials aren't going to share publicly any of these communications or what the U.S. response would look like. It would be catastrophic to think that there is such an ability to easily use tactical weapons and not end up with an Armageddon. This is what Biden said for the last few days. Can we have a conversation about this Ukraine really worth vaporizing everybody with? Are we really sure that the guy who has been called, I'm quoting, the wrongest man on foreign policy ever? And who is that? Joe Biden. He has been labeled by his own political party as the worst foreign policy man ever. Now, and yet they back him up. Are we really going to just do this and have no discussion? Or do you think that just nuking would be the right thing to do? It's very disturbing. And out of the press release, normal um, uh, normal stuff. We're just buying what they sell us. We're buying that. Oh, it'll be okay. Well, not if you start vaporizing people. Are we going to do this all the time? Are we? I mean, it may only take a city or two or three or four out, or it could eliminate a lot of different countries. We purchased $290 million worth of anti-radiation drug. And now Bill Gates is urging everybody to buy nuclear shelters. And now you think, those pills you get are for thyroid and iodine pills. And we have a bunch of those. Basically, is it worth the $290 million worth of acute radiation sickness medication? These aren't potassium iodine pills. You can't just go and buy them off the shelf of what we really do need. And what's interesting is the federal government agency have been buying and stockpiling these drugs since 1950. So what's the hurry of the 290 million more dollars? Is it just simple spending to them? Or is it something that they found that the elites will keep for themselves? And if you as you look at these drugs and their data safety sheet, um, their storage is half life for in-plate, is what it's called, which is an IV bag, is required to be refrigerated at all times, and it only lasts for 18 months. So is it worth? What did we just spend $300 million on? And those Bill Gates nuke shelters, well, it's mostly for the elite and the rich, costing millions to build. Or we can fend for ourselves and find our own nuclear bomb shelter builders. I'm afraid that our government either knows nukes are coming or it's itching for nukes to come. And I can't explain while we're antagonizing um, not only Putin, but Jinping every step of the way in this war. And by the way, more talk towards China just in the last few days. Does China respond? Well, no, I think Jinping just smiles at this. Now, think of it in China's seat. You know, China is cozied up with Russia, and from using a tactical nuke, um, they could help them with it or may not. Maybe they're just sitting there to watch. I would say because you don't want to start a world war and wipe out not only global economy, but something that could obviously spread to your country as well. It's reported that now the Biden administration warning of nuclear Armageddon, like I mentioned. But, if you look, who's not in the firing power? Well, that plays out like Asia and Middle East and South Africa and maybe South America. And maybe if nothing happens to them, it's unclear. We don't know. And the nightmare global warming that they talk about, oh, let's worry about it. But now they're willing to nuke and make it 7,000 degrees hotter in these countries. So are they worried about climate and the warming of the planet or not? It just doesn't make no sense. And what will we need to rebuild? Think on this. China, if you're China and you're trying to destroy the United States, well, we just made it a lot easier because not only would it be the United States, it'd be Russia. So either way, the competition would be right out of the way for China. And then China wouldn't even have to worry about Taiwan. They would just easily scoot on over and move right on in. And this is something maybe that China is thinking about. Maybe that's why China is so quiet. And Zelensky yesterday, or not yesterday, but over the last week, is saying, you know what, NATO, you need to nuke them. You need to go nuke Russia. Who the heck is he? This is an actor, a comedian actor, telling us how we should respond um, uh, in wartime. When has Zelensky ever been through a war to make judgments of a general or a leader? He's not neither. He's probably never even been uh, in the Army, Air Force, Navy. We don't know. But who is he to say what we should be doing? I think a comedian actor needs to sit down and let the world leaders that know and been through war uh, negotiate this out. We have a president that says we're, like I said, close to Armageddon. Um, and what should we be doing, folks? We should be having conversations about nuclear war. I think we need to be negotiating. I think Zelensky needs to step back, NATO needs to step back, and we all, and Russia needs to back out of Ukraine. And what should happen out of this? Maybe some negotiations should be happening. And um, taking ways of um, peace, not war. The people of all the around the globe don't want war, and we know that. But do um, but do our leaders? It seems like, for the most part, a lot of the global countries are backing out and is saying maybe we need to think about this. And we're even having our own generals and people at the Pentagon in powerful positions saying the same thing. Um, so maybe, like I said, maybe it's time for Russia to back out of Ukraine, and maybe it's time for Zelensky to sit down and zip it. And then maybe let's start some negotiations. We don't need to be vaporized because I told you what China would think. It's my opinion, but uh, uh, as we see within the last few days, the bridge over to Crimea has been blown up. Um, and everybody wants to point the fingers, but nobody really wants to be responsible for what we're seeing. Well, what about the pipeline? It was blown up, everybody pointing the fingers. Now, I believe that both have been done by Ukraine, and it does cut off access from Russia to Crimea and getting supplies. The other thing that we are seeing is uh, the retaliation of Russia. So if you were a world leader and you decided you're going to blow up a bridge, why wouldn't you expect retaliation? It seems that we can poke at Putin and we can poke at Russia, but when Russia retaliates, oh no, that's not fair. That's war. I know a war isn't pretty, and me and Williams talked about it on Wednesdays. If you're gonna throw rocks, they're gonna throw rocks back. And what did Putin say? The wind blows this way, it'll blow right back that way. He's done said, if you go after us, we're going to defend ourselves. And if it happens to be a bad wind will come back. And so that's what we're basically looking at. Um, and we wait every day. Why should we be on pins and needles every day worried? Is today the day? When we can have our own the Biden administration. I'm not going to poke just at Biden. I'm going to poke at the whole administration of wanting to keep going after Putin. There's so many different ways that we can go about this war, and vaporizing one another just isn't the best way about this. So um, there you go. Yeah, the civilians aren't the targets. Now, what did Putin do in response? He went after infrastructure. Now, I'm going to tell you something. That picture today of the playground, it's a repeat, folks. It's a repeat. I had to go back and look, and I couldn't pull the video for it, but it looks like it's the same playground that was hit at the beginning in February and March. I'm waiting for Eva. I asked her. I said, if you've got any way to prove this, tell me. Because I don't want to play no more games with um, propaganda. And, quit showing horrible things that could be a possibility of propaganda. Um, so, with that, you guys, I'm going to move on. And, we do have um, a lot more news that I want to get into before I get into what is going on with HUD. Um, so, um, America's newest um, tank revealed. The Pentagon climate goals for what's been done to our power plants is the other one. And so we have got this new, um, uh, basically a wonderful looking new tank. And so we have not seen, and they said, newer tanks or better tanks in a couple decades. And so now we have the newest tank was revealed. And they said it's going to be awesome on our battlefield. And not only that, but it's described as the main battle tank for the next generation. Um, I guess I should put it over on the other screen. Um, it's a hybrid power pack, they say. Not only that, but it's a lot more quieter when it's on the move. And they said this is something that they have been wanting to do on the battlefield. So maybe Wednesday, me and William will bring this tank back up, and I'll show you some really cool pictures of it. And quieter is better. They said these tanks are able to even get in even closer than we've ever been able to. Um, so now, what William was talking about, the multiple Russian missile strikes against Ukrainian civilians. Well, see, they were also trying to go against some of the infrastructures. They were trying to knock out the power system and the power grid. And unfortunately, this is where you're going to find a lot of your civilians. Um, so really, they were trying to knock out power grids. Now this is according to Putin, and according to some of the um, the power grids that were hit, and it seemed like this is what they were aiming for. Uh, you know, if they're not evacuating these cities, they need to. At this point, if they're in Ukraine and they're Russian, go to Russia. If you're Ukraine and you're Ukraine, go to Ukraine. Uh, they're going to be fighting back and forth, and they have been. And why they have not evacuated these cities all the way, I don't know. I'm a softie. I don't want to see civilians get hurt. And my thing is just get out, get out. But you can't really tell everybody to leave. So this is going to be more of what we're going to be seeing is the days and weeks and months. They said this could even last for years. So is that uh, a nuclear threat? Is it going to happen? It depends on how far we push Putin. Will he respond? A good possibility he will. Um, so California refinery exec, um, um, basically, the state's regulation affects gas supply and prices. Even Gavin Newsom, as they went to get this, almost $7 a gallon today. Um, and Gavin Newsom's loving it. He's like Vanna White, showing the alphabet. He's like, yeah, look at this, looky here. This is nothing to be proud of. And the California refineries are saying they're really low. Um, and if you remember, I've told you before during Jimmy Carter when they said, we didn't have no oil and the refineries were full. Well, what we're finding out is they're saying there's no fuel and the refineries are low, the lowest that's ever been seen in California. And that's just outside of Vallejo, where Mare Island used to be. Um, and this is something that we have not seen ever in history. And the refineries are saying we need basically a special session needs to be called with the legislatures not only just in California, but all across the United States, that we need to um, find a way to convince for leases to be given back to at least fill up our reserves. If we don't fill up our reserves, we might be in big trouble. Now, if the Democrats don't want oil, then that's on their watch. If we can get back in to a Republican and get it a little bit more fair, maybe we can convince some of these Democrats that we need to go about this way slower. Now, wasn't it, what did they tell us? 2050. Then it was 2030. And then it was next year. When did that change? Who made that change in this administration to say we'll work all the way up to 2030? And then all of a sudden it's gone. Somebody's pulling some really bad strings. And this is why it's so important that in just 29 days, folks, 29 days, we can make a big difference. And I say just to give us all a fair chance to look at what is being done and which would be the best way to go about this. Um, the solar and wind is only about 13% of the power grid. What's going to be the rest of it? And as we're seeing it failing, not only over in Europe and Germany, we're starting to see the failures here in our own states. And they should have just waited. And this is basically what the California refinery executives would like. They don't mind cutting back. They just don't want to be cut off and see people that uh, go into dire straits, and then we need the gas all over again, and there's none to be found. We've got to fill up our refineries once again. So I agree with them on that. Um, um, PayPal. Now I've told you guys, no PayPal. Get rid of your PayPal accounts. They're trying to backtrack and say, no, we're not going to do that. But there really nobody from PayPal has stepped forward to make the official response that they're not going to start charging people or cutting off conservatives. So I say just do away with it, and then they can explain themselves. Um, um, Biden sent top U.S. officials to meet with the Taliban. What the heck is he doing? Last time we seen that was right before, right after 9/11. We sent some officials over there to talk to the Taliban to try to find out where Osama bin Laden was. And now we're sending them over there to maybe get this. We're hoping to get them to talk to the prince over there in Saudi to get them to give us a little bit more oil. So why the Taliban? To me, that sounds threatening. I looked at it and I said, you know what? No, I don't think so. You don't threaten. They sent the CIA director and top State Department officials not only to talk with the head of intelligence with the Taliban, but also who else did we send? David Cohen. And so why? The goal is their meeting is still unclear, but what they're saying is they could get their hands on some um, um, maybe uh, I don't know. The Taliban's want a pile of cash for something that we know. Maybe it's a withdrawal of U.S. troops in certain areas. But what is coming out is basically they want the Taliban to help them talk to Saudi to get some oil that to be released. Uh, so not only that, so the United States set up an Afghan fund at the Bank of International Settlements for effort to kickstart the economy, and alarming levels of hunger and poverty. And so this is what they're saying. So Afghanistan debts and bills keep the economy afloat. So what we're going to do is we're going to give them some aid to keep their economy afloat. In the meantime, if we do this for you, maybe you can go over here and do something for us. But why send CIA and head state officials over there? Something's up. Something's up. So as soon as I find out, boy, I'm snooping. I'm snooping hard on that one because the whole meeting didn't make any sense to me. Um, and, maybe it is just to get Afghans some money, but it shouldn't have been leaked out that they're trying to get the Taliban to go talk to Saudi for the release of a few more barrels of oil. All right, let's see here. I do really want to get on to all right, I really do want to get on to HUD because this is so very important. And with the poverty that hits the middle class, and even the middle class becoming homeless as prices rise, it's not enough in taxes. Um, we're looking at money laundering by state officials. And what I'm talking about is HUD. And not only that, but all of the services that HUD has to offer. Now, who is responsible for this? We're looking at the money comes from the taxpayers, not only state but federal money. There is a certain amount that the feds give the state for poverty, for the homeless, for HUD, for housing vouchers. And so, what happens to it? Why does it never seem to get to the people? Well, I had to go all the way back to the projects in the early 1930s when they were built. And what I seen was it was meant to ease the homelessness. Not only that, but veterans or military families that were very poor, veterans, um, and it was state workers. And not only that, but then we had immigrants back then that were coming into our country. And so they built the projects to ease the the uh, the homelessness that would be on the streets and the medical costs it would incur. And so we built these projects. Well, over the years, and these buildings became very, very old and started falling apart. And I believe it was in 1970 that they took one of the biggest and demolished it. It was housing 2,900, uh, uh, um, no, 1,900 apartments. Uh, and you figure two people per apartment or a family of four. That would tend to make how many people homeless? Now they're saying that there is 2 million uh, homeless or those in poverty in our country. We just let in 2 million. Uh, so is that going to create 4 million? Where are we going to house these people? And as it is, not only Philadelphia, but Chicago and New York and other places that have these projects, all these buildings are from the 30s, the 40s, the 50s. They're going to have to come down. And what are they putting in their place? Luxury apartments. So where does it fall on HUD? Well, HUD now has taken it upon themselves that they are going to find uh, places to put apartment complexes and affordable housing, affordable apartments, and not only that, but places they can put these little houses through HUD that you can qualify that you help build with others to receive these houses. The only problem with this is now it goes to HUD. Well, then that would be your state and your city. Now, so what happens when it gets to the city? What they do is they contract out a type of real estate that would be in charge of building these apartment complexes or these homes. Well, what they found is they say, Well, everybody deserves the chance. So what they're doing is they're trying to put these apartments and these homes in subdivisions where, where you have your home HMOs, HOAs, and they have restrictions. Well, then of course they're saying, you're a racist. You're not going to let poor people live here. Why not? Well, because they have rules. And the people that move into these communities, they follow the rules. Now, so what has HUD done? Well, they took your tax money, they took it from your state, your city, and our federal money, and they went and found lawyers. They're going to fight it. So they're spending millions of our dollars instead of giving it and finding other places they could put these apartment complexes and these homes where they could be in beautiful areas. No, they don't want them over there. No, they want them over there in where they can't have them, where they have to hire all these expensive lawyers to fight it. You would not believe the money that they have squandered on lawyers. And then how many of these apartment buildings have been built? Well, a few, they say, a few, not many. And so as we look at people on waiting lists for Section 8, housing or HUD or affordable homes, they're busy playing with lawyers in court with your money. There should be, get this, 13,000 per homeless person that we pay in taxes, 13,000 a year that they should be getting. And guess what? They're only getting about $2,000 in subsidies for housing. And this isn't right for those in poverty or those trying to struggle to make ends meet. The other thing that's going on is we pay into some of these funds, and it goes to our State Department. Then it would be up to our mayor. Not only the governor, but then you're looking at the mayor and you're looking at city council that's supposed to be controlling Section 8 for these cities. Well, when they get this money, they look and say, well, no room at the inn. We don't have nowhere to put nothing. We don't have no room for an apartment or any of that. So there's leftover money. Well, then all of a sudden, they're writing this little check and they're money laundering it, and they threw it bank to bank to bank to bank. And lo and behold, they just took the money that could have went to those in need. There would have been more money for Section 8 housing. As it is, they run out of money. These vouchers come out, and you would not believe the thousands that show up to get these vouchers. And not everybody gets them. And why? How much money short that has been money laundered through city councils, through our mayors, through the people that work for the state, through the state housing authorities. Misappropriation of funds. Yeah, Ed. Yeah, Ed, you've been through some of this. I've heard I've heard your cries over you yourself as a veteran being gypped out of these funds. And the thing about it is they're getting caught. Every like Chicago has been the worst. And so tell me that back in the 50s, when they seen poverty and they put up these projects, they knew they had an issue. They knew they had a problem. They knew they had a community that was crying for help. Okay, so what did they do? Yeah, crickets. Yeah, nothing. They didn't do nothing in the 50s. They didn't do nothing in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000. And then here comes Obama, senator. What the heck did he ever do for Chicago? Same with California. What have those senators and congressmen ever done to fix things? Now, when I watched the Rodney King riots and I watched part of LA go under, the state promised that they would bring these places of businesses back. They never did. And as those cities got boarded up. More people moved out. They went to other places, cities, to look for jobs. And that's what we're seeing with these sanctuary cities. You let them riot, you let them protest, they burn down these businesses leave. That is an automatic call for, and leads to poverty in these cities. And so what do? Nothing. They just launder the money, misappropriation of funds, um, everything they could do not to put it into either Section 8 or into HUD. Um, there is plenty. Get this, they have signed trillions of dollars to help um, not only foundations and organizations and state funding and everything they could possibly do to help those in need. But where does the money go? Well, you know what? We need to open up this office, a social program that's going to help people look for work. Well, that's not, yeah, it will help them look for work, but where are they going to sleep? Where are they going to clean up? How are they going to get a job if they don't have nowhere to live? Or if it's on the other side of town, they don't have a car. All of this that each individual state should be responsible for. And there's plenty of money for this, but they have never used it in the right way. How many of you got circles in your uh, cities to where, they took the stoplights out and they put in circles? Well, we overbid it. This is kind of how they do it. They overbid it, and they tell the state we need X amount of dollars. They go over and they hit up many contractors to do it, find the lowest, and let's say there's $2 million left over. Oh wow, 2 million. Well, guess who gets a new house? Guess who gets the new cars? They get new suits. Yeah, that's what happens. And this is where this money's going to. Instead of putting it where it should be, to where it should go back to the people, it should go back to bringing businesses in. It should go to, if all these houses are empty and corrupted towns, pull all them houses out. They're falling apart anyway. Put in a beautiful uh, uh, apartment complex. Now, get this. Can you imagine the projects, and can you imagine living in an apartment building that is 18 stories high and falling apart and controlled by the gangs? And what do? Defund the police. These people are crying for help in these projects. And not only that, but even apartment complexes for low income with slumlords. There is nothing that the Section 8 or HUD or state authority can do about a slumlord. Why not? They have nobody to run them, but they have lots of social programs that can help you. Uh, maybe you need food stamps. Yeah, okay, we'll get you food stamps. Why? I need a place to live. We're going to have to put you on Section 8 list. Section 8 in HUD, the system is so corrupt. It is so corrupt. We shouldn't be giving millions to lawyers to fight for an apartment complex or maybe a little HUD house in somewhere where it just doesn't belong. We need to build up our cities and make them better. We need to get rid of uh, the poverty rate in some of these inner cities. And we're not going to do it until we start nailing these politicians and these leaders into what they have been taking. And they do it. I mean, you may think the best Republican, but you know what? That little bit extra money, money talks. And why not? Everybody else is doing it. And then we have new mayors like Lightfoot that I seen her get in, or Eric Adams. Oh, they're going to get in and they're going to change it. Well, sometimes it is so deep to hear. They can't fix it. It is so corrupt. And you go, they go door after door after door and knocking on them saying, we got to do something. We can't just keep stealing the money. Oh, shut up. just go sign your papers. And this happened to one of the mayors um, in Chicago quite a long time ago, and they just couldn't do nothing. Their hands were tied, and they finally just gave up and resigned. And why didn't Obama do anything? He had a chance. He had a chance to make Chicago great, and he wouldn't even curb the corruption that's going on in that city. And it's not just the crime rate, folks. The crime rate is horrible, but that can be fixed. What can't really be fixed is the amount of money that is being taken by politicians and officials. Even from the lowliest city councilmen, they're getting arrested for money laundering and misappropriation of funds. Not only that, then you go to your mayors, they're getting caught. Then all of the state departments that have anything to do with housing, one by one, they're all going down. And some of these officials are even money laundering for other things, tax evasion. And when you start looking into it and you start watching these cases, a lot of it is money that should go to a certain department or funding for the low income people that they're just taking. And this happens all the time, folks. Uh, and as I stated earlier, um, uh, brand new apartments would be nice, Edward. Um, and not only that, but they can make it so it can be under Section 8 to where they can work with your income. The money's there. It just never gets to the people. It gets from the feds, it goes to the state, it gets to the city, and then it's gone. It's gone. And our taxes, and I know we all feel for those that are homeless. The thing is the middle class now is going homeless. The middle class, that's the working class. They are working, and because the price of rent is so high now because of the corruption and the lawsuits, it's caused the cost of the rent to go up. Not only that, but then we're looking at the mortgage rates going up. So, of course, those that own these places, if their mortgage goes up, your rent goes up. And this is something that's never been addressed, ever. I looked from the 1950s on and said, when is someone going to address this of housing the homeless? They're throwing up some tent cities, but that's for the illegals that's maybe temporary. They have been claiming that they can fix poverty and the homeless in Section 8 and HUD, and they're doing the best they can. I think it's a lie. I think they're doing the best they can to line their pockets. Because when you start looking at city councilmen in $1 million suit that didn't have it a year ago, where'd that money come from? They don't pay them much. Or then you see even some of the representatives for the state, the same thing. They don't make very much, and all of a sudden they've got that Maserati, they got that beautiful brand new car, and they're wearing those $1 million suits, and they're whining and dining their friends. Where's that money? You know where that money's coming from. It's called money laundering and misappropriation of funds, and it's taking money from us taxpayer that could have helped our fellow man. So, boy, with that, folks, um, if you have any questions, but look into it. And we can't help all the homeless, and a lot of them don't want to help themselves. But we're going into a time where families that have children are homeless, and their money is being squandered. And and what do? They can just hope for the best, get a loaf of bread, maybe have peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for dinner. When we don't need this to happen, our whole state housing authority needs to be overhauled. It has not. There has never been anybody that has audited the housing authority for your state. It's never been done. because they trust them. Do you trust them now? I don't. I never have. And I didn't like the fact that, when you tear a project down, you put close to 3,000 people on the street and you don't help them with housing. Where were they supposed to go? And now they're talking two more with approximately 2,000. So they're going to tear them down, and that's 4,000 people on the street. Where do they go? They should be replacing it. It's almost like what we see with the way that with the gas. They're just going to do it, and then everybody else suffers. It's okay because they make all the money, and it's up to us to figure out our own life. But we're giving them tax money to take care of the social programs that we would like. Start watching those social programs, because usually this is what socialism is. It's a social programs that they get in there, and they open up many, many offices to find out what the root cause of why there's poverty. That's what they've been doing so much. They'll open up a training office for unemployment, and they use the money for housing for the poor to put into that office to help them go look for a job. They can do it themselves. All they have to do is open up the paper or look for help wanted. They don't need millions of dollars poured into these offices for them to think about it. So, anyway, that is it for today. And we are running a new programming, big changes. Tomorrow we'll have news. And then we'll kind of do the same thing on Wednesday, a little bit of news, and then me and William will do the World War III report. I think it makes for better news, more informative of what's going on and the changes that we need to make to our government. And if I can expose every single department that I can every week, that's what I want to do. I want to show us how we should be going about taking care of our own people. And it might be that. It might be us conservatives looking out for one another, and us Christian joining hands in brotherly love, and to solve the problems that's going on in our country and what our country faces. So, all right, you guys, I really thank you for watching, and please subscribe and share. We are at a new hour to where we might be able to get the attention of some that haven't watched our show. And, you can listen to it on the way home from work, and it's about that time of the evening for, throw it on your cell phone and sit it in the seat next to you and let it go, or Bluetooth it. I guess that's what they call it. But I appreciate everyone that watches and shares our shows, and we're only getting bigger and better. And of course, I mentioned in the midstream of the show, we have had a strike drop against us. We're down to one, and we're getting better. I'm trying not to get myself in trouble and banned. We've lost thousands of watchers because of it. And I'm going to toughen up, and I'm going to get you guys everything that you guys need to know. So share with a friend, and hit the like button, hit the bell if you're not receiving notifications. And if you're over there in the Investigator News Network, we are on Investigator News too. So please join us over here. And with that, folks, you guys have a wonderful, I'm ready to cough. You guys have a wonderful Monday. And we will see you back here tomorrow afternoon. I think we're all going to like this time zone. It's, a time after work and right before all the local news and world news and evening stuff comes on, and maybe gives the 3 o'clock people to 6 o'clock people a chance to watch. All right, you guys, God bless, and we'll see you tomorrow. Take care and share. Definitely share. Bye-bye.